So, hello and welcome to another episode of What You've Been Looking For. I'm Gary, and I'm also joined by Helen and Natalie, as we are every week, the three of us here to talk about a subject. And this week's subject is procrastination. Why can't I get things done? It's a thing that came up in our group on Facebook. If you haven't joined that yet, please do. And procrastination. It's a big one, isn't it? It's I probably procrastinated quite a lot this week, but let's push it over to Helen and Natalie and see what their thoughts are about. Why couldn't you get anything done? What's stopping you?
You go, Nat.
It's a good one, this one, because when I was reflecting on it in preparation, I realised that it's not just the stuff like the icky stuff, the stuff you just don't want to do, like filing a tax return or whatever that is to each individual. There's that stuff that's like on your to-do list that you keep pushing down and say, "I'll do it tomorrow, do it tomorrow." And then there's the big, fun, great stuff as well. I started reading Elizabeth Gilbert's book, Big Magic, and it really got me inspired about creativity and how we have loads of ideas that come to us that we sometimes just push back, squash down, and say, "No, it's too big for me, that. It's like, it's too exciting for me. I can't face that." Because I'm worried about failing, or there'll be lots of things that come up in your mind around doubt. So I don't think it's necessarily just about negative stuff, which was my initial perception of it.
That's really interesting. Because, when I was coming to this, I was thinking, way back prior to this understanding, I'd have said, "Oh, I don't procrastinate. I do stuff and I just get on with it. Like, I have a plan and I take action." And I can't, of course, I have no idea what was actually happening at that time. And it's entirely possible that in that belief that I didn't procrastinate, no evidence was allowed in that procrastinating was happening. So it really looked like I didn't procrastinate. And then what's happened since this understanding is that now that there's more, I know there can't really be more awareness, but now there's less of that stories being held. Procrastinating does happen, but what's wrong with it? Like, that's been my fundamental reflection coming in today. We've called it this bad thing just because we've decided that leaving something to the last minute is a bad idea, just because we've decided that maybe dipping in and out of something, or not doing it the minute it's needed, or like the minute it's set, like it's decided. Who cares if you do your tax return at the last minute? Who cares if you don't get straight on with something? It's there's no truth to procrastination in being a bad thing at all.
Yeah. It's another one of these ones. We have these discussions where we think, "Oh, we'll just kill this in the first 4
done.
minutes." In the first 5 minutes, we're done, because procrastination is. Because for me as well, I wouldn't even know what procrastination is. It's like, how do I know what procrastination is? What behavior am I labeling as procrastination? Because I'm always doing stuff. I mean, human existence is really just about moving piles of stuff around. That's all we do. It's just like, we move this to here, we move that to here, now we move it digitally, we move this like this here, we move thought from here to over there. That's all we do. We just move stuff around, and some of that stuff, when we're moving stuff, we don't like that we're moving that particular stuff, and we want to be moving other stuff. And I don't really know. Now I don't know what it means to procrastinate. I know what it means to beat myself up for not doing something that I thought I should be doing when I was doing something else. I know what that feels like, but that's something different. That's me just arguing with reality and wanting it and living in a universe of could, shoulds, and woulds. It's like, "Oh, I should have done this today. I should have done that today. I should have." Well, you didn't. So,
but is that not the exact thing that makes it look like procrastination's a problem?
Yes.
Like that, because that's kind of, that's like what procrastination is. If you label it as bad, it's because there's a story over it that's saying it shouldn't be like this. You should have done it by now, or you should have got further with it by now. And without that, it's just stuff is happening at this pace in this period of time. or it's not happening, and then it's all happening.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing that turns it into a bad thing we call procrastination is an idea that it should have been done a different way.
Yeah.
And there's this idea, it's that mind chatter again, isn't it? That has you believe that there's an order or a hierarchy for things to do and when to do them, and like almost like prioritizing, I suppose. But that's perhaps the thing that then creates this sense of, oh, it should be higher up my list, you know. Who says? That's kind of arbitrary, isn't it, the list?
Yeah. I've always found though, when there's been a sense of procrastination, and a sense is only a thought, but there's been a like, oh, I should be doing that, I should be doing that. Then something else comes along to show me why I shouldn't have been doing that thing that I've been stressing about. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And it turns out like it was perfect to wait.
Yeah.
Not that you were waiting, but it was perfect not to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly. So I don't know if I can think of an example of that, but yeah, there's always times where it's like, oh, you know, we need to hold that off. We need to hold. This might be a big one, but there was always the whole feeling with us doing a. I'm going to go down this route.
Oh my God, what's this going to be?
no, it's just organising our wedding in Thailand, which eventually which eventually got cancelled because of COVID. There was always a sense of, oh, we're not doing enough on it. We're not doing enough on it. And we're not progressing it fast enough. You know, we need to get on it. And in the end, it didn't go ahead anyway. So things were moving at the speed they wanted to move at, knowing that was what was going to happen. And it kind of sounds like life is predestined, but I'm sorry to say that, you know, from a kind of even quantum physics, quantum mechanics point of view, it is. So yeah, everything's available in this moment. All the nows are here. So you don't know what's going to happen, but it's kind of the only way you can get somewhere is the only way you get somewhere. That makes sense.
Yeah, I've seen that with my website recently, where I'm having my website redone. And I thought it would have all been done and dusted in April, maybe May. And it's like, oh, here we are in mid-June. And there's been all sorts of things that's happened in amongst that time. And latterly, it could have been really easy throughout the whole thing, it could have been really easy to go, oh my God, but it should have happened by now. You know, that website designer should have done that, or this, there's been a whole hosting issue, like, oh, that should have been sorted by now. But it's like, but it's not been. So why fight with the fact it's not happened, and progress is being made at a pace, and that's when it's happening. But I guess that then brings to mind the added layers of story, because it's really easy for me as an individual with my own business to know that the world's not going to collapse when my website doesn't get done by a certain date, and I can just choose to keep changing the date because it was made up anyway in the first place. But in a business where you've then got, it really looks then like a real business where there's more people, and it really looks like things have to be done by a certain time, and there's the interconnection of, well, if I don't do my stuff by this point, then that has a knock-on effect on other teams or customers or suppliers, or and all the knock-on in terms of money, and then my performance and promotions. There's a whole load more story gets added in, doesn't there, if you're in an organizational context.
I was going to say that businesses look like they're all about productivity. You see so much on LinkedIn and stuff about efficiency, driving efficiency, deadline driven meeting, you know, and that's that language around it has to go a certain way, otherwise it's all going to go to pot, basically, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So if it doesn't work out the way that we've planned out in our head, then it's not going to work out at all. It's kind of the catastrophic level of thinking. There's almost an element of it in there that's also about, you know, the expectations of others on you as well, isn't it? It's oh, if I don't get this done, others will think badly of me. How am I going to go into this meeting and say that I haven't done this report because they're going to think this of me? And I've been, not getting on with it because, and you start justifying how you've existed.
Yeah. And then you just make up a whole bunch of stories, aren't you? Oh, well, no, I couldn't get to that because... Yeah, and I remember working with somebody who he was a very last minute kind of person. Well, he seemed to have a preference for that, and his boss seemed to have a preference for things being like at least progress being made in the lead up to a deadline. So of course there was like this real tension between that because they were completely at odds with each other, and he never missed a deadline. But there was it caused such emotion and friction. But actually now seeing that, I can see how they were each there to wake each other up. Like he was there to show the boss that it's okay. Like things get done. We don't have to progress by a certain timeline. And she was there to help him see that sometimes it's okay to make progress before last minute.
Yeah.
And that kind of comes back to actually what we were saying before we came on the call about you see both sides of a coin, and then when you see through both of them as not true, like both are possibilities, neither true, and then both can be integrated. And then sometimes you might work to a set plan, and other times you might leave stuff to the last minute, and it doesn't matter really what you're doing. It's just, it then just becomes, instead of being a battle of, oh no, I'm a last minute person and kind of holding strong to that, or I'm a planned person and I go on and do stuff and holding strong to that, you can then be all of it and flow and adapt without having this imagined resistance of no, I don't work like that.
This is not the way I work. I need to work another way. A lot of here there was a lot of struggling with having to be a certain way. It's like I have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and be efficient and do these kind of exercises and do this checklist, because everybody has a morning routine. So I'm going to pick this morning routine that somebody else has so that I don't procrastinate, or I get through a day and get my workload done. But now it's more like I get up when I want to get up, but I still have a morning routine, because everybody has a morning routine. And if I fight that routine some way, don't start from where I am, it's never going to change. So more it's like, well, I know that I'm going to get up, I'm going to do meditation. At some point I'll do some exercise. I don't really fight any structure, and structure just creates itself.
Apart from when you've got a small baby.
Yeah, I was going to say, with kids, I feel like we're back at school now with my littlest, and I was lying into like 8:30 before and quite enjoying it, just waking up and going, ooh, let's start the day here, great. And now it's not like that. It's like we've had to take it back, and it, although it's flowing fine, it feels slightly more orderly and like rigid because of that.
Yeah, so structure created itself then.
Yeah, it happens. Yeah.
So the structure, so no matter what the environmental constraints are, the structure will come the way it needs to come, and we can try to fight that, and we can make choices on how we structure our environment. But who's making the choice as well at the end of the day? It's just it happens, isn't it?
And I would still say babies don't allow structure. Like, not in a bad way. Like, again, that's them.
Yeah, exactly. But
that's part of their wake up mechanism for us in our structured, orderly adult way. They're that beautiful wake up to us to go, what the heck? Like, no, you're not in control. Come on, let's get real here. So they're brilliant for that. And it's kind of I guess for me there's a balance of that order disorder in the universe, and sometimes structure is useful, sometimes it's not. And it's the integration of both, which we allow, the less we cling to I need one or the other.
Depends what you also mean by structure, though, isn't it? What is structure? It's what is structure to you is not what is structure to somebody else. Structure means support, doesn't it? It's but also it can mean regularization or uniformity. It's even chaos is a structure. So it's structure's always there. There's always structure in it, and you finding what your structure is basically a case of even trial and error, but that's not even the right words. It's your structure is constantly evolving and changing anyway. So it's never going to be what you think it's going to be. It's going to be however it turns out, I think.
And in that respect, I love the exploration of creativity. I know there's quite a few people like Steve Chandler talk about creativity, and this book I'm reading by Liz Gilbert's really interesting because she talks about ideas and how they come into being and we're like a conduit for the idea. It's not our idea as having it, it's just something we run with and it happens through us. And she had a great idea for a book sometime in her life that she really thoroughly researched. She had great inspirational feeling about it, and then she had to park it because of something that was going on in her life. And it was quite a specific plot. It was set in a specific area with this narrative going on. And then this other writer came into her world out of nowhere, and they both had a bit of a connection. They didn't really meet face to face much, but when they did meet face to face, the other writer told her about a book she'd written, and it was exactly the book that she was going to write but didn't write. It was amazing.
Yeah.
I've got a feeling she's like Russell Brand. Is that her?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
That's really cool.
But it's these synchronicities that show up. Going back to every time that I felt a sense of procrastination, it's worked out that I probably didn't need to do that thing anyway. So
my old boss, when in my HR days, because I used to be like Miss Efficient. As soon as somebody comes in with an email and a question, because I started off on like help desk with discipline and grievance stuff, so your job was to respond really quickly and get back to people and help them. And then when I moved into a partnering role, where there's bigger projects and longer term projects, and sometimes horrible things like restructures and redundancies, and questions would come through, and I was still in my mindset of, quick, answer, be the good, helpful person. I remember her saying, just hold off, just let things settle for a bit. I remember thinking, oh my God, that's terrible. Like, what's going to happen if we don't answer these emails? But yeah, things would evolve and emerge, and things would settle down, and questions would change, and answers would appear from somewhere else, and really showed like the power of not needing to always be on it, not always needing to be there taking action. And sometimes exactly what's needed is to do nothing. And again, it's like the more you connect into our true nature, into who we really are, it's that flow of those things, isn't it? So you're no longer having to go, it's not a conscious effort of, should I do this now or should I wait? It just happens, doesn't it? Without all that narrative over the top of what's the right thing to do for this particular situation. It's that trust, isn't it? But not I don't know, it's not like a belief, is it? It's not, I believe everything will turn out okay. It's just that knowing, isn't it? Like it's the only way it can be happening.
Yeah, it's a knowing. It's not a trust or a fact. It's just a knowing. But that's been pointed towards a lot in one of the things that Bhagavad Gita says is that the man who has wisdom who knows wisdom, there's action in inaction, and inaction in action. And we don't know what the wisdom is sometimes in when we're procrastinating or not taking action. There's sometimes a wisdom in that. So it's trusting that, there must be a reason for it being like it is right now. But I don't know that reason yet, and this is all about hanging out in the unknown as usual. I'm in the unknown again. I don't know how it's going to turn out. I don't know what this is happening for. Of course, we still make the story up about it, and that all still happens. It doesn't go away. But it's
not as compelling.
It's not as compelling. No, there's that knowing behind it.
Well, kind of like the person said in the Facebook group, thinking that, oh, I procrastinate all the time, but actually then going, well, yeah, except while I'm heading towards the end point of that thing, I'm still considering it, I'm still making decisions, I'm still, it's getting behind that story, isn't it? Like there's the overlay of the story that just goes, oh yeah, I procrastinate. And the minute we start to open up and get curious about that, it's like, well, yeah, not really actually. And yeah, to the point of all that stuff, and look how actually it turns out just how it needs to, whatever that is, even if it means it doesn't happen. Like because when we attach to stuff and go, oh, it's got to happen this way, that we think it's gone wrong when it doesn't happen. It's just not for now.
It's just you need to not do it right now, and that's fine.
I wonder if that talks, Nat, to that thing you're saying about the bigger stuff, like the stuff that looks perhaps scary, or oh God, could I really do that? That looks really big and important. Or what do you reckon?
I think so. And sometimes I was thinking about the relationship with fear, because that comes up a lot with things that we've got a narrative around it being a big thing or something we've always dreamed of doing. And it's true for me right now, because I've always wanted to write a book. I remember as a child saying, I want to be an author, that's all I want to do. I want to write. And then over the past couple of years, writing more, sharing more, and having lovely feedback from people saying, you need to write a book, and thinking, oh God, I just can't do it, it's too big, I've got too much going on in my life. And then reading this book, which probably came as a sign to say, this is what stood in the way of creativity and like not accepting ideas. And then I ended up writing a message to someone saying, oh, I know you've written a book, how did you do it? And before I stop to think and engage and get frightened, I think the stuff just happens, doesn't it? And I think that's what you were saying before. It's the flow aspect of when you stop intervening with that intellectual stuff and identifying with the doubts and fearful thinking, you can just roll with it from that space.
Do you think you have to look at those doubts first? Like, do you think you need to sort of bring them out into the open, not to do anything with them, but just to see, like, what is it that I'm thinking that's making it look like it's not possible?
Yeah, and let's have a closer look at that, which is what we've said before around the stuff which is thought held as truth that keeps us stuck in life in the same perpetual circles. It's only when you give that some space and then look a bit more closely that you recognise that, oh, there's not really any truth to that, is there? Which is quite freeing when it happens. So yeah. Is there anything you guys might have pushed back or, had an idea for and then it's just not happened, or you?
All the time. It's like ideas come all the time. It's just, oh, I could do this, I could do that. I have to check myself. And for me, the difficulty is staying in one kind of not going off somewhere else. I kind of dive into subjects. We just having this conversation before here. It's like I'll dive into the subject, and while I'm diving into a subject, I'm not doing other stuff. I'm dived into this subject to learn about it, and then educate myself to a certain level about it. And then while I'm doing that, something else isn't getting done. But I've realized now that I used to beat myself up for that. I used to be like, oh, I should be doing this other thing. Why am I not focusing on this? And why am I just now going to investigate that? But there's something that the synchronicities are always there, that there will be somebody will ask me a question, or somebody will come with a struggle or challenge, or I'll be in a conversation with somebody, and the thing that I just did yesterday or read about yesterday or considered yesterday will be the thing that I need to say to that person right now.
Yeah, totally seen that.
Yeah. So now I've given up with worrying about it. Okay, well, obviously that's happening for a reason, and I will be shown what that reason is at some point. And it's normally we're looking sometimes for these big synchronicities in life to say that, oh, I need these big synchronicities, these big moments that show me that there's an intelligence behind the system, but then we don't see the little synchronicities that are happening all the time. So it's always, I can view it as everything is synchronous, or nothing is, or just some things are, and it's Like, well, everything is synchronous. Everything is happening how it needs to happen. And I know how that can sound as well. Yeah. So I know how it can sound like, oh, were you saying all the bad stuff that needs to happen? It's, well, yeah, at some level it does. Because it can't operate without it. So it has to be there. So I'll go too far down that route, but
no, but it's, yeah, as you were talking, because I was thinking back to like business, and I was often a little story of, God, wouldn't it be so amazing if everybody in business could just operate and flow and operate from trusting that things will happen how they need to happen, and that we don't need to work so hard at strategies and plans and goals, and you know, just know that it's all going to evolve and emerge as long as we know vaguely what direction we're going, what we're here to do. And I was going to say we know what our jobs are, but even within that, people naturally find their place, don't they? Actually, when there's no structure, people find, like you said before, that a structure will emerge. People will naturally fall into leading on this particular activity, and I'm leading on that one, and oh, I'm really great at organising, so I'm going to do that bit, and I'm really great at creative, so I'm going to do that bit. You know, people naturally find their place, don't they? But then I saw how then that's just a completely mind-made story of some idyllic world, assuming that the other is wrong, and assuming that having structure and having hierarchies and having goals is wrong, and that's not true either. And it's again, there's an integration opportunity, isn't there?
And ultimately, at the beginning, when you said at the beginning, you said, you know, I wish they knew that they're already in flow. They're just not conscious of it.
Yeah. There's that story over the top of it suggesting it's not the case.
Yeah, it's not the case. Yeah, it's like we're always in flow. We're always, you know, flowing from one moment to the next. We're always arbitrarily moving through this relative experience that has time in it, and it's all happening how it needs to happen. So.
Yeah. There is nothing to do.
But it doesn't mean there isn't anything to do. And it's the paradox that gets us. But as you begin, you have to make the two the one. And when you make the two the one, then it's probably more about your own sanity and peace of mind more than anything. Oh, I've made the two the one now, so I can live with this. Which space to come from. But until you make the two the one, or the one emerges from it, you won't know what to do. You won't know what the action is. But whatever you're doing is going to be the action that will happen anyway.
Yeah, and I think that people, because we've got this idea that we are a separate entity that has to navigate and constantly be vigilant and do, there's not a lot of trust for a natural process that will just come to you in the moment. You know, when I'm coaching and talking to people from that space, I can still see hesitancy in but how am I going to know what to do? How you know, and it's kind of recognition that's the idea of you that you've kind of been clinging to, that we all do from time to time, but it's not who we really are, is it? So
imagining there's a right answer, there's a right way to do it, there's a right way to live life. What's the right answer? I'm going to do that thing of just saying, for anybody who's listening, I'm going to definitely not do it 5 minutes before. For anybody who's listening, so if you have got any experiences or questions you want to chip in while we come into this last quarter of an hour, it'd be lovely to hear your thoughts.
I love what you said in your newsletter, Helen, about the idea of something and the narrative that we create about it is so different to the experience of it. And oh, how easy it is to get sucked into that when we're putting something off or frightened to confront something, because this idea just fills our head, doesn't it, completely?
Yeah, and yeah, so true for procrastination, isn't it? Is that oh no, it's not. I was going to say it's the boiling frog thing, but it's not that, is it? It's there's another frog metaphor it's the one about you've got your to-do list and one of them looks like a big fat frog, and you keep trying to ignore the fat frog and work around the edges of it and not just deal with the frog. And it actually says, it's not very nice, but it says just eat the frog.
Swallow the frog, I've heard.
Yeah.
That sounds really wrong.
Boiling the frog's the other one. The boiling the frog's the one where you don't notice that things are getting worse and worse until
Okay.
the water's got so hot that you're actually dead already. But the fat frog of your priorities is the one that you keep putting off. It's the one that you keep going, no, I don't want to look at the fat frog. Whereas actually, if you just eat the frog, it's done, it's dealt with. But yeah, it's that. And the frog grows. Like the more you believe the idea of the activity, like probably tax returns is a really great example of that from the start. Build it up into some really awful thing. I had that with a client actually. There was some contract they were setting up with a new business, and her and the ops director and the MD were all meant to be working on it, and it kept making like these tiny steps forward, and nobody was really grabbing it because they were doing it between the three of them, and it was really sticky and just not moving, and getting really frustrated that it became a really huge frog. But all of them were also kind of slightly ignoring it, not knowing what to do with it. And then one day she'd had some clarity from one of our conversations and just went, I'm just going to get it done. And within like an hour, she'd done what needed to be done and sent it to them just for them to see, like, yeah, it's fine. But yeah, this thing that apparently looked so ginormous, so simple, but for those stories that in the meantime had looked so real. And they do, don't they? Until we start to question them, and then the more we question them, that compelling idea, you know, the less compelling they look, and the more quickly they look less compelling, the quicker we pop out of it again and go, yeah, no, that's not true. Let's just do this thing.
Yeah.
No questions so far.
Okay.
What else to say about procrastination? Yeah, I'm still convinced it's not a real thing. So,
if anything,
yeah, it's just made up. It's just we don't see that it's not a problem. That you're just things are going to happen. I mean, it's just. I mean, dogs and cats don't procrastinate, do they? They don't have a procrastination experience. They don't sit there and think I'm procrastinating. A cat definitely doesn't think that it's procrastinating. It spends its whole day sat around doing nothing. For it, it's doing something, isn't it? Yeah, it's just that wish that we want it to be different than it is. And in that wish, it's going to take you away from separation. It's going to take you away from source. But then, for me, it's a misidentification with identifying with the thought, isn't it? If you say I'm procrastinating, it means I am procrastination. That's who I am. That's who I believe myself to be. And then that's when you suffer around it more than anything. It doesn't mean that you're going to go and do the thing that you've been putting off that you want to do. But as soon as you drop the identification with it, it probably becomes more easy to do than it would do before.
It's all identification and attachment, isn't it? Because it's identification with whatever it is you think you should be doing. Identification with the time scale that's been made up to do that thing by. Identification with the fact it's not happening or appears not to be happening how it should be. And that comparison with nature, I do love that. And whenever, I don't know, right then when you said it, I could just hear this voice going, yeah, but we're not animals. We're not trees. We're intelligent creatures with these prefrontal cortexes who can create iPhones and build buildings. And I can imagine that kind of
look at my nest
challenge. Hey,
look at my nest. Look at the nest I built for myself.
But I can imagine it being like an argument against this to go, yeah, but we're not animals. We are people. We have got prefrontal cortex. We can do stuff other than the rest of nature can, as far as we can see it. And so, and we have responsibilities. We have bills to pay. We have families to look after. And yeah, and I know as I'm saying that equally is all identification with roles and responsibilities and our what we're here to do, and there's a right way to do life, and it involves bills. But yeah, I don't know, what do you guys both see in that, like that challenge to come back going, it's different, we have got deadlines to meet?
It sounds to me like this crosses over slightly with the one we did on busyness, where there's an assumption around doing being favoured over being. And I saw this week for me, getting when I was like just having a bit of time of not doing anything in the garden, and then recognising that how I would often feel guilty doing that. And I think this idea that productivity, doing, which obviously comes from business and other kind of cultures, is massively rated. And yet, actually, the being is who we are. That's our true nature. And we've just forgotten that so much, haven't we?
Yeah. What did you say at the beginning when you were talking about, and it's like, I'm not an animal? That when people say that, for me, that's a recognition that they know that they're not an animal. They know who they really are. They just never recognized it. It's like, oh, no, you're not an animal. Who you really are isn't an animal, but you just happen to be in the body or mind of one right now, and that's how you're going to live your life through that vehicle, and it will play out how it will play out. So yeah, I think when people say that, that's them having that deep sense of knowing, because we know it, but we don't turn and face it or look at it and say to ourselves, oh, yeah, I'm not an animal because I'm this. I'm all of it. Graham just asked a question. I think for me, procrastination is all about the fear of making the wrong decisions. It's like you can't make a mistake.
Yeah, it looks so true though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like when there's, especially in work, when there's a boss and performance measures and money and yeah. And then how often have we made what's apparently a wrong decision, and still it's turned out to somehow work absolutely fine? If nothing else, you realise something from it. Somebody I was working with last week who was saying she had this piece of work to do and was trying to hit a deadline because she felt like it was the right thing to do, even though she was tired and hungry and had a really long day and was about to have to get into a really yucky spreadsheet, or what looked like a yucky spreadsheet. Oh no, I better do it because they've asked for it. And rather than say, actually, do you know what, I'm tired, I'll do it tomorrow, cracked on, did it, made a bunch of mistakes, and got the feedback from that, of course, even though one of the mistakes didn't actually affect the thing that person was working on. But it was like all perfect to help her see that she just got caught up in that idea again of in fact, it was caught up in stress and in the experience of stress, going, oh my God, yeah, I've got to get it done. And actually the feedback and the challenge from life was keeping trying to say to her, step back, step away, to your point, Nat, stop doing, go be. But it was like the pushing through, perfect, because then on the other side of it, there was a moment of clarity. The whole spreadsheet was redone really easily, no problems, all correct. And in that experience of that up and down, the ebb and flow of it, loads of realization about just the natural way the system works, and the trust in that, and the I guess the removal of a layer of fear of the experience of stress, because it was a recognition of how we will keep getting the feedback to try and show us you're stressed, there's stress, for it to break and you come out the other side of it.
I guess if it looks like it's all on us, when we're talking about decisions, which I know is particular to that question, when we're very much associating with the idea of me and a pressure on me, and if I don't get this right, what does that mean? Then it's going to feel really, really hard, isn't it? That's how it's going to show up. Whereas it's in the knowing that that's not who you are, that suddenly there is no decision to make, is there? There's never a decision to make. It will unfold, basically. It looks like I am actively choosing one thing over another sometimes. And I know that's a difficult one because it's a bit like free will, but it's unfolding as it is,
It might be worth sharing in the show notes. There's a really good video by Gary Weber about the default mode network. where he talks about they've shown the decision-making process in the brain, how that and from neuroscience, MRIs, fMRIs, they've shown the time difference and the time lag between the activity that shows the decision being made and the default mode network where the voice of the self is, which then pipes up going, "Oh, look, I made a decision." And it's like it has nothing to do with it at all. And I'm sure the difference is it's huge. It's like up to like 10 seconds later or something that the voice decides to do the PR activity on something it's got nothing to do with. And the voice isn't even anything to do with us. Like it sounds like us, but there's just this activity is happening. A decision is made magically, and then the voice claims it and says, "Oh, that was me." Nothing to do. There's no me here that's got anything to do with it.
So here's a question for you, Graham. Before we go on to that one, Graham was saying he worries about making the wrong decision in other people's eyes because people pleasing. Yeah. So again, it's like you can't make the wrong decision even in somebody else's. Because also people pleasing is about you bringing a story of you to the table and saying, well, I'm this kind of person, so if I don't make a decision that pleases this other person, then that doesn't validate this story that I have of myself. And I've completely lost my thread of what I was going to say later, so we won't go on to that.
What comes up with me in that is like an idea of needing to please others. Is going to keep making decisions that are really hard. It's going to keep making it look like people are displeased. So it's fundamentally the seeing through of the story of I always at the heart of it, but perhaps a layer up from that is I need to please everyone. Like that's the thing to get curious about. Where's the untruth of that? Because none of it's ever true.
So do you find that this was the question? So do you find it with your respective significant people in your lives, whether or not now you've changed? Because now I'm like, I'll say, well, I don't know when it's going to get done, or I don't know why I did that. You find there's a level of frustration now creeps in because it almost sounds like you're not taking ownership for it, but it's more like, well, when is this going to happen? Don't know.
See, I've seen the opposite, because I've seen a less in the past. I might have had ideas about, oh, that should have been done by now.
Yeah.
And now it's just like, well, God, what's the point? Like, he's smart, he's got a brain. If the stuff that he wants to do, he'll do it. And if he's not doing it, it's not happening. And fine. It's like there's, and if there was something that really genuinely, hopefully minimal self-involved, but something that really looked like needed doing, that would be said, and then something would come from that. And it's but it's
the awareness is key, isn't it? Because those things still play out, but I'm there's definitely for me a noticing of I'm doing that thing again, or I'm really wedded to things going a certain way on my terms, and now you've reacted in a way that's obviously going to be how you're reacting, because there's a friction between the way you see it and the way I see it. It happened last night, actually, with a heated discussion. it resolved so much quicker than it would have done. There would have been like big huffs going on and not talking to each other, but it was like, oh, that was a bit ridiculous, wasn't it?
In that space again.
One of my early ones was over the dishwasher. I used to have a real thing about dishwasher being loaded and stuff not being left on the top. Honestly, if you saw our kitchen these days, I thought of it yesterday, because very often it might be dishwasher's full in the morning when we get up. The breakfast dishes just get piled up on the side. Then potentially we all have lunch. The lunch dishes are everywhere. And then maybe by tea time, while I'm cooking the tea, I'll then unload the dishwasher and restack it. In the past, oh my God, that would just have been unheard of. And I remember way back when the kids were babies, and my husband saying, you do realise the timetable of when the dishwasher gets done is only made up in your head, don't you? Okay. Good point. So try saying that to your boss. You realise the time scale of that decision is only made up in your head.
You're just making this up as you go along. I can't remember which book it was. Well, there was a neuroscientist wrote a book about it just being really shallow, that we think the brain is really we think the brain is, you know, deep or something, but it's just really just making it up as it goes along. You know, that it's, and that we're actually quite shallow at that level, and there's really nothing, you know, basically going on than we're just acting out a pattern, or we're acting out an energetic response to a situation, and that's it really. And the brain is just layering on thinking and noise and stuff on top of that to try to make it make sense to you, because it might be a bit overwhelming if it didn't make sense to you. So you've got to have some form of story to give yourself some form of, it feels like you need a story to give yourself some form of concrete, some form of concreteness to it, isn't it?
Or comfort.
No comfort.
We like comfort in the unknown, don't we? It's like,
yeah, I suppose to some extent, like without some kind of story, there's no life here happening. Like the whole, for a very fundamental level, the story enables there to be a me and another and stuff to be done. And it's just, we're seeing through as much of the stories as helpful to operation in the world still happens. Doesn't need an idea of me doing it. And all the associated knock-on effects of believing in this idea of self.
Sometimes I think when we have these discussions that people might get the impression that we're some form of like Zen Buddhists, isn't it? We're floating through life without a care in the world, but that's really not how it works. It's, you know, there's still the identification going on. There's still the angst. There's still the anxiety. There's still the worry. There's still the second guessing. There's still, that's all happening. It's just, there's an understanding that none of that actually is anything that you need to pay attention to.
Yeah, and for me it comes and goes. Like for everybody it comes and goes. It's just that you're not necessarily paying attention to when it goes. You're paying attention to when it's here. Because that's brilliantly, because when the I is here and present, that's when resistance appears in some form. And that's the opportunity to see through a layer of I and misunderstanding. All perfect for the waking up process and the delayering process. And it's just that we've misunderstood that experience of tension as something to fix and solve out there. And that's the shift for me with this. It's like, those moments might appear, but now it's like, brilliant. What's to be seen here? What's the delayering that can come from this? Not from a desperation, like not from a I'll only be okay if I see through this. Just from a I wonder what this might be that might disappear, might not. Because like you said in a previous episode, Nat, it's like sometimes things get seen over and over and over again until maybe they're properly gone and don't affect you again. But we'll never know, will we?
No.
That's all it is. It's the coming and going of that idea of me. But sure, for me it's much less of an experience of identification than ever before.
Someone was in the chat just talking about breathing techniques and how they use a breathing technique to get rid of procrastination. I think again, going to this technique, this thing about having techniques and tools, is that they're not needed, but that doesn't mean that they're not needed. You know,
we're talking in riddles again.
We're talking in paradoxes again. If you're drawn to using a breathing technique that helps you focus and get things done, then that's what you're drawn to, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's not going to be the thing that gets you to where you think you need to be. It's not the reason that things are getting done is that technique. It's just that technique is showing up on the process, on the way to getting things done.
And for me then it's also staying open to the fact that at some point that technique might look like not doing anymore. And the self can really cling to, oh God, no, but that's our life raft. Like that's the thing that's getting us to take action. So it's just noticing that if that pops up, it's like you said, it's because it's not the thing which is helping you get your stuff done. It's okay if it if it starts to look like that's not needed, and then there might be something else. I used this in metaphor the other week of like crossing a river. So if that breathing technique is your current raft to cross this river, great, you use it until it looks like you're at the other side, and then you'll leave it, and then you might come to another river, and then it'll be a different raft. But it's the recognition that the thing is not the thing.
It looks like it's a thing, but
it looks like it's a thing, but it's not. But for as long as it looks like it, you do it. It's like when I stopped meditating for a while, it looked like, God, no, I shouldn't stop meditating, because Jesus, I really need meditating. Look how much it's helped me since I started. But then gradually it became less and less like it was a thing to do. So gradually it stopped, and then meditating's not happening. And look, now next stage, next river, next raft.
It's interesting like that for the meditation, because I had the same experience of meditation stopping, and then starting, but then it started again, but meditating now is just, the experience of meditation is no different from the experience of now. It's just, I sit in, I do like a guided one, and I do a couple of others, and they're nice. I'm all for state training, but it doesn't mean that you need to do it, only if that's your kind of calling or path, and meditation is the thing that I kind of noticed was missing for me, and it needed to be there. But equally,
just like the breathing techniques,
isn't
it?
Just like the breathing technique.
Right now it's happening, and
exactly.
Might stop.
And I used to get into the thing like I have to do it every day, and I have my little chart, and I've got to do 365 days a year, and I did like a year of meditation once. And if I'm honest with myself, and I am honest with myself now, is that sometimes I didn't really do 365, but I used to put a session in. So I didn't actually do a 365 year of meditation. And so now I'm doing a meditation every day, and I've done like 100 and something days in a row, 155 days in a row now. But there's no kind of like achievement thing with it. There's no like, oh, okay, 155 thing. Oh, I'm going to get 365. It's just the complete letting go of that. And meditation is what you are, what you is, what you are. So it just keeps happening. So I mean, as Wesley is saying, if you want to use a breathing technique, and a triangular breathing technique, and that helps you, then that helps you.
Really seeing that the mechanism is the same. The breathing is settling the idea of self, and the settling of the idea of self, it's easier for stuff to happen, because there's nothing battling the experience.
Exactly.
And that's that for me is then the more fundamental, the knowing of that. It's all sorts of things can settle the self down. And sometimes we don't even need to settle the self down, and we just go, God, the self's really kicking off right now.
It's wild. Knowing the design, isn't it? The understanding of the design is what informs everything. It's that changing gear. It's like it filters down into the behavioural stuff, doesn't it?
So there's
cool. Thanks for those questions.
Thanks for those questions. We've gone on 50 odd seconds, 50 odd minutes.
Let's stop, hadn't we? But brilliant. Thanks for that conversation.
Cool.
So next week again, we don't know what we're talking about. So any ideas? And it's episode 10 next week, which is the last one in this current series. So if you're listening to this within the next week, chuck ideas our way via any social media, or the website, or the Facebook group, or the Facebook page. Do let us know if there's something in particular you want us to talk about. And then we're bouncing some ideas just now about doing some more open webinars like we did between series 1 and series 2. So if that sounds interesting, let us know too. And if there's particular topics again for that you'd like to hear, that's really, we'd rather do stuff that's useful for you. We can make things up. But if there are particular topics that that you'd really value having some time in conversation with, then let us know that too. As always, get in touch with any questions or comments or concerns, again, through all those channels. And is that it? Is there anything else I need to say? Join the Facebook group.
Join the Facebook group. Helen has a really good course if anybody wants to join that.
I've got a course at the minute, so Realising Your Brilliance. We'll put the link in the show notes, and Gary's we'll put your link in there as well. You've got a course coming up too. Yeah,
I've got a course coming up, Exploring Your True Nature. So, and because I'm a meditation guy, we do a lot of meditation. So if that's your thing, come to me.
Mine's conversation based. So a bit of input from me, open up into conversation. We've got 8 calls. So we just started with call 1 Tuesday gone. 8 calls still to do every Tuesday evening UK time. But it's structured in a way you can join at any point in the process of those calls. So we'll put the link of both of those down in the show notes.
Cool.
Brilliant. Thank you all for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Really appreciate it. And we'll see you next week for episode 10.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.